East Asia, diplomatic tensions rarely erupt overnight. They build quietly, layer by layer, until a single moment exposes the fault lines beneath the surface. And over the past few weeks, the relationship between Japan and China, two of Asia's most powerful nations, has shifted with remarkable speed. Just weeks ago, images of Japan's new prime minister smiling and shaking hands with President Xi Jinping at the APEC summit in South Korea were seen as a hopeful sign. Commentators suggested the two governments might finally be entering a period of stabilization after years of strategic friction. But that optimism vanished almost instantly. A statement delivered by Minister Sanae Takachi before the Japanese Diet, warning that Tokyo could face grave security risks if tensions over Taiwan escalate, triggered a sharp reaction from Beijing. Within hours, the fragile diplomatic line between the two nations began to fracture. And when that line was crossed, China activated a familiar but powerful mechanism, a coordinated multi-layer response involving dozens of government agencies, economic regulators, cultural institutions, and regional bodies. No speeches, no dramatic announcements, just a silent yet unmistakable tightening of pressure. Tonight, we break down how this campaign unfolded, why China launched it, and what it means for Japan, a country whose economic and security lifelines run straight through the world's most contested waters. According to regional observers, the turning point came after Minister Takachi stated that instability around Taiwan posed an existential risk to Japan. To Tokyo, this was not an exaggeration. The statement echoed official defense documents and years of strategic assessments. But to Beijing, it crossed a red line. Almost immediately, China's vast state machinery began moving in unison. No official directive was released publicly, but the pattern was unmistakable. Regulatory agencies shifted stance, cultural bureaus paused approvals, industry associations altered their guidelines, local governments signaled new restrictions. In diplomatic terms, this was the opening move in a 1+N strategy, a coordinated campaign in which one catalyst triggers simultaneous pressure across numerous sectors. Two major factors lie behind China's timing. First, Japan's evolving role in the US-Japan security alliance. After years of caution, Tokyo has now openly stated that Taiwan's security is directly linked to its own national survival. This language is not symbolic. It appears repeatedly in Japan's strategic documents and speeches by senior leaders. Meanwhile, the US, Japan, and South Korea have deepened joint exercises, intelligence sharing, and planning related to potential Taiwan Strait scenarios. To Beijing, this forms a tightening security triangle. Second, the semiconductor rivalry. China depends heavily on advanced chips, but faces strict technology restrictions led by Washington. Japan plays a critical role in this ecosystem. Without ultra-pure materials from Japanese firms and without equipment developed by Nikon or Tokyo Electron, China's most advanced chip ambitions face major obstacles. For Beijing, this is not just trade, it is long-term strategic pressure. Against this backdrop, China's recent actions take on a different meaning. A calibrated message that aligning too closely with Washington in sensitive domains will come with economic and cultural consequences. The first visible front was cultural. Several Japanese movies, including major animated releases scheduled for next month, were suddenly postponed indefinitely in China. State broadcaster CCTV described the move as procedural, but reports indicated that political pressure and public backlash were the real drivers. Even major franchises that traditionally performed strongly in China saw abrupt declines in sales following the political tensions. On social media, calls to halt support for Japanese entertainment surged, leading importers and distributors to pause planned releases. Soft power, a field typically insulated from geopolitical disputes, had quickly become a target. Another unexpected front emerged in China's decision to recall two giant pandas currently residing in Japan, scheduled to return in 2026. Panda diplomacy has long served as a subtle indicator of China's political temperature. When pandas are recalled or when new loans are frozen, it is widely interpreted as a sign of cooling ties. In this case, the message was clear. Restoring goodwill will require political recalibration from Tokyo. And the terms for future panda loans, requiring strict international standard facilities, care for aging pandas, and adherence to the One China principle, carry unmistakable diplomatic undertones. The most disruptive blow arrived from China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which issued a travel advisory urging Chinese citizens to exercise heightened caution in Japan. The impact was immediate and dramatic. Within days, Chinese airlines recorded roughly 491,000 cancellations, around 32% of all planned bookings for Japan. Aviation analysts described it as a sudden power cutoff, leaving the Japan-China air transport system semi-paralyzed within 48 hours. Hotels across Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, and Hokkaido reported mass cancellations from corporate groups. Luxury venues such as the Imperial Hotel, normally fully booked for year-end event, received waves of postponements. Restaurant chains, tour operators, retail districts, and entertainment venues, all heavily dependent on Chinese visitors, faced severe disruptions. Industry leaders warned that if cancellations continue into the year-end holiday season, revenue losses may exceed previous economic downturns, including periods of currency instability. This was no longer symbolic pressure. It was an economic shockwave. Beyond tourism, China has a long history of applying administrative pressure. This includes delaying customs clearances, extending safety inspections, and requiring additional documentation, all technically procedural, yet capable of causing major commercial damage. These methods were used against South Korea during disputes over missile defense systems. And there is nothing preventing Beijing from applying similar tactics to Japanese goods if tensions escalate further. A single shipment delayed at Shanghai's port for a week can cost Japanese companies billions of yen. And from a legal standpoint, Beijing can argue that all procedures remain standard. Amid economic pressure, maritime tensions may also intensify. The Senkaku Diaoyu Islands, long a friction point, could see increased patrols, research vessel activity, and Coast Guard operations. Past incidents of close-range maneuvers, buoy placement, and territorial signaling may reappear, potentially with greater frequency. For Tokyo, this is a worst-case scenario. Economic pressure on land, political pressure in international forums, and maritime pressure at its doorstep. Reducing tensions remains difficult because none of these moves require open escalation. They operate in gray zones where diplomatic responses are limited. At the core of this dispute lies Taiwan, a place central to both nations, but for entirely different reasons. For China, Taiwan is a matter of national sovereignty. For Japan, Taiwan is a literal lifeline. Japan lacks domestic oil, gas, and most strategic resources. Over 90% of its energy imports pass through sea lanes just south of Taiwan. If those routes were disrupted, even without conflict, Japan's industrial system would face immediate paralysis. This is not theoretical. It is an established vulnerability outlined in Japan's own security documents. And then there is semiconductors. Japan's automotive, electronics, and defense industries depend heavily on advanced chips from Taiwan's TSMC. A halt in production for even 1 month could cause losses in the hundreds of billions of dollars and shut down manufacturing lines across the country. Strategically, Taiwan also functions as a buffer zone. If China were ever to control the island, its military presence could extend much closer to Okinawa, home to key US-Japan bases, fundamentally altering the security balance in East Asia. This is why Tokyo reacts so strongly to developments in the Taiwan Strait. Not because it seeks confrontation, but because Taiwan represents its most critical strategic and economic vulnerability. And Beijing knows this. As Japan and China navigate this sharp downturn in relations, both sides face difficult choices. Beijing has shown it can leverage economic, cultural, and administrative tools rapidly and with precision. Tokyo must now decide whether to harden its stance, seek diplomatic de-escalation, or adapt its strategies to reduce long-term vulnerabilities. But beyond governments and institutions, a larger question emerges. In an era where geopolitical pressure can unfold without a single shot fired, through tourism, film, shipping routes, and chip supply chains, how should nations prepare for the next phase of international competition? And what path should Japan take now? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe this confrontation will escalate, stabilize, or reshape the balance of power in East Asia?